Thank you guys all for coming tonight and for your interest in addressing our board. This is your opportunity to address us. The board will listen to your statements, questions, or concerns. We will not have a conversation. If follow-up is necessary, a member of the superintendent staff or board member will get back with you. You'll have 3 minutes to address the board. There's a timer up there. If you get close to the time, Mrs. Crafton will remind you to wrap up your comments. And know that you're getting close to ending so you can wrap up your comments. That we ask for all speakers to be professional and refrain from any personal attacks. Personal attacks are not tolerated. Thank you. And with that, our first speaker will be Hillary Glazer.
Good evening. I'm Hillary Glazer, the Walled Lake PTSA Council President. First, on behalf of PTSA Council, I'd like to congratulate our Teachers of the Year. The work you do for our students and within our community will have a positive impact for years to come. One of my favorite things about the Walled Lake School District is that people like me are given opportunities to help make the district stronger. We're encouraged to take part in focus groups and planning opportunities that help build something better. And at this year's Presidents and Principals Breakfast, I briefly touched on it while mentioning that things both within and outside of our community that cause divisiveness to spread can be mitigated. And then I made a really big request to all of our PTAs. Help keep our schools as unified and friendly as possible in the face of divisiveness. My request wasn't an easy one, and I recognize that, but I'm also a person who walks the walk. Your PTSA Council has been working really hard over the past year, planning an event at the Zeckelman Holocaust Center for the entire community that is structured around unity. It is my honor to invite staff, students, families, and the greater community to the Holocaust Center on January 28th, starting at 5:30 p.m. for the Building Connections event. It's an evening to learn from the past so that we can unite for the future. This private event is free and will feature an educator-led guided tour. You can also take a self-led tour if you choose. And a next-generation Holocaust survivor speaker who will share her grandfather's story of survival. I am a firm believer that at some point, everyone needs a reminder of what can happen when we allow divisiveness to take hold. And this event is a great way for our community to take a look at the past, make connections with each other, which doesn't really get to happen very often, and unite so that we can build a stronger district. Information was sent out in this week's district update email, and I encourage everybody to attend. It is free. I also have a few flyers, thanks to Pam Cole, who printed them for me. There is a QR code where we're requesting registration so that I know how much food to buy in advance. There will be light refreshments. It is recommended for ages 10 and above, but as parents, you get to make the decisions for your own kids, but that is the recommendation. If there are any questions later on, I'm around. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ron Lippett.
Ron Lippett, Commerce Township. My wife Denise and I have 3 daughters, including our youngest, who's a junior at Walled Lake Northern. Before I begin, allow me to express our sadness at the horrific images coming out of Southern California. We pray this awful situation ends quickly. We are thinking about them this evening. Now on to my comments. One of the reasons I admire your board service is because you knowingly expose yourself to the public ire. It's not easy listening to harsh criticism. Sometimes it gets personal, and that can be hard to manage. But it is protected speech. Here's a fun fact. School board members are considered public officials under Michigan law, this as opposed to limited public officials or private citizens. It's important we understand this because public officials have fewer protections from defamation than the other classifications. We see this play out in our political discourse as the public has wide latitude on how they can characterize our elected officials. However, It's important we understand that under Michigan law, teachers are not public officials. They are, in fact, classified as private citizens afforded the full protections from slander, libel, or defamation. Further, public commentary about a teacher, either written or verbal, on social media or otherwise, can more easily meet the lower threshold of defamation should they be harmed as a result of libel or slanderous statements. And even further, Michigan is a defamation per se state, where statements suggesting a lack of sexual morality or perversion is assumed to cause harm, and it does so automatically. Damages from per se defamation can be extreme. Put simply, public officials are fair game, but make libelous statements against a private citizen, like a teacher as an example, you do so at your peril. As an example, if we take issue on social media about a teacher reading content from a specific book, a statement like, "We shouldn't be using that book," or "I don't think that book is appropriate," these opinions are protected under our First Amendment. But then creating conclusions like, "He's a predator, he's a deviant, he can't be trusted around children," this is not protected speech if it damages a teacher's career. And may in fact put you in legal jeopardy, especially implications of sexual immorality, given Michigan's defamation per se law. I urge our community to be cautious with their words when it comes to private citizens. Remember, the internet has a long memory. There are reputations and careers at stake. A teacher is not an elected official. As a reminder, our district maintains a robust HR policy. We have strong leadership through our superintendent, our cabinet, staff, in partnership with the WLEA. We are well suited to respond to any HR concern, and we should allow the system to respond with the same professionalism it has shown over these many decades.
Please start wrapping up.
Yes, ma'am. On a last uplifting note, this Saturday is Walled Lake School's Day for Strings at Walled Lake Central. As the father of 3 self-described orc dorks, I'd be remiss not to mention the event publicly, and I hope you can attend. With that, Happy New Year, and good luck in the new session.
Thank you. Mr. Mike Wiese.
Mike Wiese, 23-year resident of Commerce Township. I want to talk about book banning tonight. A quote by Adolf Hitler: "He alone who owns the youth gains the future." This was from the Moms of Liberty publication, Hamilton County, Indiana, June 2023. This is a right-wing extremist hate group. In 1933, Nazi right-wing conservative-dominated German groups carried out public burnings of books they claimed were un-German. Book burnings took place in 34 towns and cities and stood as a powerful symbol of Nazi right-wing conservative intolerance, hatred, racism, and, as we sometimes see here in public commentary sessions at Walled Lake School Board meetings. In 1933, conservative right-wing Nazi German authorities aimed to synchronize professional and cultural organizations with Nazi ideology and policy by banning and burning books. Joseph Goebbels, Adolf Hitler's Nazi propaganda minister, succeeded in bringing German arts, culture, literature, and ways of thinking in line with extremist conservative right-wing Nazi goals. Once in charge, Nazis purged cultural organizations and took direct control of governmental entities, including the German military. They murdered officials, including newspaper publishers, journalists, and radio broadcasters, alleged to be politically left and suspect, and who performed or created artworks or literature or writings or worked in scientific fields, which Nazi ideologues labeled as degenerate. A certain political element is determined to abolish governmental entities in the United States, like the Department of Education, the National Endowment for the Arts, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, Department of Health and Human Services, and to defund the Department of Justice, including the FBI. In Berlin, in 1933, huge crowds gathered to hear Joseph Goebbels, Hitler's minister of propaganda, deliver a fiery address. Goebbels enjoined the crowd, "I consign to the flames the writings of Heinrich Mann, Ernst Glazer, Ernest Hemingway, Jack London, Helen Keller, and Albert Einstein." These writers believed in social justice, believed in improved conditions for workers, and supported women's voting rights. The Nazi propaganda was a resounding success, receiving widespread newspaper and radio coverage In Berlin, radio broadcasts brought the speeches, songs, and chants live to Nazi German listeners, the promotion of Nazi right-wing Aryan culture, and the suppression of other forms of artistic production and writing and opinions. Book banning and burning was a successful Nazi effort. The Nazis started by banning and burning books and ended by burning people. I can't help but see some early similarities in our society in the United States today.
Thank you. Ryan Yohe, I hope I said that correctly.
It's actually Yo. I'm a Wixom resident since 2009. I have 2 children in Sarah Banks. My son, George, is in the 8th grade and has an IEP. It is an IEP that we fought forever to get. It took 3 years of fighting with the schools to get that IEP in place. And it was only because of teachers who stood up and got that IEP in place. In the 6th grade, when we went through George's IEP annual review, it was suggested that he move into a resource room IEP class. And Ms. O'Brien can attest to it, I was somewhat against it at that time. George was reading at the 3rd grade level in the 6th grade. COVID policies in the school had failed him because he got his IEP in February of 2020. We all know what happened shortly thereafter. So I talked to other parents, other teachers, and put him into this resource room class. On the 17th of December, I get an email stating that they need to amend his IEP because they're doing away with the resource room class. This is a class that is taught the curriculum of the 6th grade, the 7th grade, the 8th grade, whatever grade that they're in, this is the curriculum. He went from a 3rd grade reading level to almost grade level now. And now with only a few months left of his 8th grade year before he goes on to high school, he's being taken out of that class, just like every other student in that class, to be put in a co-taught class. 4th, 5th, 6th grade up until about this time of year, he was in a co-taught class and was still reading 3 grades below where he needed to be. These classes, these small classroom environments are critical, and they're protected by IDEA, which is the federal act that requires the individual education plan. There is also a Supreme Court ruling that protects and defines what is an adequate accommodation. We need to reconsider the removal of these resource room classes. These small class sizes are a benefit to my son and many other students within the Walled Lake School District. It is abhorrent that we get an email on the 17th of December before a holiday shutdown that we have to amend this by January 20th. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda Frushman.
Hi, I'm Linda Frushman. I'm a resident of West Bloomfield Township. I didn't prepare anything. I'm just speaking from the heart regarding some horrible things I've seen written on socials lately about a particular teacher at Northern. I want to start by saying I'm a career public school educator. I'm a career school psychologist. I have recently retired from Farmington Schools as school psychology. I am currently working clinically as a developmental child, adolescent, and young adult psychologist. And I've spent a huge portion of my adult life completely devoted and focused on trying to help children of all ages in my career, ages 6 to 26, to feel safe, accepted, and protected at all times. And so many of these students and clients in private, to me, the tears, the anger, but mostly the fear of sometimes having to go home just to be themselves. It was unbearable for many kids, and I'm sad to say some kids didn't make it. In my career, this is what I've seen. So now, when I see what's going on continuously at the high school at Northern, this teacher, not only should his book not be banned, but he has the power and the courage just to be himself. And to many, many of these kids, he is an inspiration. He could be the only safe person in their life, and in my opinion, he's not only a hero, but he could be saving lives. And to all of my fellow neighbors out there with their views that really are reminiscent of the 1940s, I just want to remind you that hate rolls downhill into the kids. You say the hate, it will roll down into them. And unfortunately, I've seen this in my own personal life, where I also had 2 kids, both students at Walled Lake Northern. One who was bullied tremendously throughout his secondary career. And the Nazi crap that happened to him made him absolutely afraid to show up to school. I don't blame the kids, even though I'm pretty angry at them. I really blame the parents. And my kids are still somewhat afraid to go to school. Back to this teacher I began with, my other student is a senior. She has this teacher scheduled for next semester, and she cannot wait.
15 seconds.
And I would just love for her to have an experience with this amazing hero. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Hawkins.
Hi, I'm Sarah Hawkins. I have 4 kids. I will be in the district for 22 years. I will be providing transportation so my kids can attend Western for 16 years. We never intended on having our kids in public school this long, but decided to for many reasons. One being we like the diversity exposure. 82% of Loon Lake is white. 44% of Meadowbrook is white. 20% of Loon Lake has free lunch. 50% of Meadowbrook has free lunch. Central's testing is top 20 in the state. Western is top 50 in the state. Do you get more funding based on testing? Does this correlate with diversity? Central is set to be 70% white and Western 48% white. With the draft plan, Central would have been 58% white and Western 59% white. Since it's still January and plenty of time, I asked the board to start a new motion to rezone these schools to the draft plan. Unity is more important than 4 days of enrollment. Mr. Siegler, in your opinion, children don't really care, so you should have no issue in voting in favor. And Mr. Smith, people voted for you because we thought you cared about unity. I have asked the district why not to take this opportunity to fix this. The answer I have received is the significance of current 350 high school students. 350 high school students, you were going to send kids as young as 10 years old across town to attend school for these kids. 350 high school students are so significant, you're going to continue these splits. No parent would be excited to split their kids from their peers. No child either. 350 high school students are not significant enough to figure out how many need bus transportation. It could be 1. You don't know. And getting the funding for that and implementing that. Now, providing transportation for my kids for 16 years is a big deal for me, life-changing. But 350 students isn't a logical reason. The homeowners and parents and community have spoken. No one wants splits. Parents are only left to assume the real reason is based on demographics. I don't understand what's going on here. Why do these splits? What's the reason? It's hurting kids. It's emotional to them. You can fix it. Fix it. Y'all are getting rid of resource rooms. That causes anxiety on kids. Why do that to them too? And then you got teachers reading about
15
sucking
seconds.
penises. That's just nasty, y'all. That is nasty. He wrote that book knowing nationwide 16
Please wrap
is
up your
not the
comments.
legal age. That is not the legal age nationwide.
Time is up.
Thank you.
That is only
Thank
in
you.
Michigan nationwide.
Time. Thank you.
Only in Michigan is that legal.
Thank you.
Not nationwide.
Thank you.
17 to 18 is nationwide.
Officer Patterson, if you would like to help her wrap up her comments. Thank you. Thank
His
you.
intent is to let the kids know
Thank
they
you.
have sex with adults.
Thank you. Janice and Richard Robel.
Evening. Richard Robel. I don't have any prepared marks. It does have to do with this particular subject, though. I've had children, myself, my wife, go through the Walled Lake school system from elementary school all the way through high school over the years. As I sit here today, I noticed the mission statement that was showing here. I don't have it memorized, but what I noticed was at the very end of it, it talks about, the beginning talks about what you want students to be, and it says at the very end, the last two words are knowledgeable citizens. Knowledgeable citizens. That means you have to have knowledge. You can't be narrow-minded. You can't only learn one thing. You have to understand the world. You should want to understand the people in it and how the world works. It may not be what you want, it may not be who you want to associate with, but to have true knowledge, that's what you need, in my opinion. Another thing that I heard tonight with the teachers in particular who got the awards, none of whom I don't think I knew, by the way, one of the things that struck me was many of them were, in their description, was they were described as being inclusive. That word stuck out. They were inclusive. Again, they weren't only picking certain students, presumably to help or not. They weren't basing their teaching, presumably, on their religions, their race, their gender, sexual orientation. Pick anything you want. Any particular thing that makes up a person is diverse. It can be whatever it is. And part of my, I guess, issue with this even being brought up was I thought, why should any particular student's parents think that they can control what every other parent's students hear or don't hear in the classroom? If I said, I don't like what I just heard him say, who am I to say, your student and your student and your student, you don't get to hear him because I don't like it? That's nonsensical, to say the least. And even, I guess, worse in a way, to say, I don't like what you said, and I don't know this gentleman, by the way, I'm just pointing at him. I don't like what you said, and because of that, you should lose your job. Lose your job because I don't like something that you said? How about his wife and family? What happens to that person if they do lose their job? What about their children?
15 seconds.
No one should have the right in any school to be able to tell any other parent what they have to have their kids hear or not hear, or how their lives should be controlled or their teachers' lives controlled.
That's
blatantly
time.
unfair. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrew Klasa.
Hello. Bear with me. I want to read you something that was given to me by students, past and present, from Walled Lake Western High School. There is a point. I'm writing this petition with deep concern and an intimate personal connection to the issue at hand. Dakota, a school therapy dog for the Walled Lake Consolidated School District at Walled Lake Western High School, has been a beacon of joy and comfort for years. Yet recently, Dakota's health has been declining and she seems depressed, primarily due to being separated from the familiar presence of her longtime friend and caretaker, Andy Klasa. It is agonizing to watch Dakota, now aged in her retirement years, being forced to continue working in a school environment without the care of Mr. Klassa. This distressing situation has led the once cheerful Dakota into a state of depression with her health issues seemingly ignored and overlooked. Numerous research indicates the profound impact environmental change could have on an animal's health, especially for senior dogs. This is a clear demonstration of Dakota's current plight. Her radiant charm has dimmed, and it's evident she is not receiving the necessary care to manage her age-related ailments. In the interest of Dakota's welfare, we are appealing to the authority of Walled Lake Consolidated School District to return Dakota to the loving care of Mr. Klassa. Let Dakota live out her twilight years in comfort and happiness under the care of the guardian she has known her entire life. We deny the shift of Dakota's custody to someone else and demand on her rightful return to Mr. Klassa. It's not just about keeping our promise to a loyal friend, it's about acknowledging and respecting the bond between Dakota and Mr. Klassa. Please sign the petition to show your support for Dakota's well-being and her return to a happy, loving home. Your students at Walled Lake Western, and present and past, are seeing what I've been trying to tell you. But there's a different issue here too. Kind of goes to what we've been talking about. Okay to say and ALICE training are trainings that are designed to create a safe classroom. When is a school safe when students are afraid to exercise their First Amendment rights, which is the reason I circulated this petition on their behalf? That's the reason I circulated it. Thank you, and have a good day.
Thank you. Okay, Hannah, I'm going to mess up your last name, so if you want to say it when you get up there, I'd appreciate that.
Hannah Lazorovich. Good evening. My name is Hannah Lazorovich. I am in Mrs. Spitzer's Resource and Math class at Sarah D. Banks Middle School. I am in 6th grade. I am here today to talk about resource and math and reading not getting canceled. I am below grade level in math and reading. I do not think they should get canceled. I do not want to be in a special ed math class because it's embarrassing, but I also know every kid who is far below needs to stay in resource and math until they get better or grade level. I need the small math class. It helps me understand math better, and I like school now. The last time I liked school was when I was in 1st grade and kindergarten with Mrs. Hutton plus Mrs. Holder. I always hated math. I cried doing homework for hours with my mom. Now I like math, thanks to Mrs. Pickard in my resource and math class. I liked social studies with Mr. Butch too. Please let me keep my resource and math class. Also, please add Chick-fil-A to the lunch menu. Also, I will be in the spelling bee. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. Hannah's mom, Allison. Again, I'm not going to say the last name. Have you?
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Allison. I have a daughter at Banks who is in a special ed resource room math class that is taught by a certified teacher. At her IEP transition to middle school meeting last May, it was determined that she would take this class due to her disabilities and math evaluation. Being in this class has helped her evolve significantly as a learner, not only in math, but in all subjects. She's emerged as a leader and now values education. Her last IEP, signed in November 2024, gave her 26 hours in a general ed setting and 10 hours in a special ed setting per week. On December 19th, I received an email asking to amend the IEP due to changes in the Michigan Department of Education and least restrictive rules. These classes now require a teacher with a specialized math or reading certification. Does that apply to every general education student's math and reading classes too? My investigation found that the district is dissolving resource room math and reading classes by second semester on January 21st. The lack of transparency, communication, and rushing this change is absurd. It's sad that a student can't even get an IEP evaluation in the same 13 school days notice that the families were given. These students are also in binding IEPs that go into next school year. I have heard that the current structure is only at Banks. Why not have this structure at all 3 schools? Why not bring a teacher into these classrooms that meet the requirements at all the middle schools? At Banks, I estimate the change affects around 50 students with IEPs and legitimate disabilities. Closing these classes is a failure to these students. These kids will be thrown into a cold hot class at grade level mid-year being taught curriculum that is built upon concepts they have not yet been taught, then pulled into small groups by a secondary teacher. This puts all these kids at a disadvantage along with their math skills that are already 2+ years behind. This also sets them out as different learners and takes away the safe learning environment for special ed learners. It delicately violates a lot of IEPs. Changing the IEP language through an amendment tricks families that don't know their rights and corrects the violation. Moving my daughter into these classes will shut her down and she will become discouraged, maybe others too. The special ed math class has given my child the opportunity to excel like normal learners in a general ed setting. My solution is to dedicate one classroom, 2 hours per grade, math and reading special ed class taught by one teacher certified in both subjects. It still opens up 2 classrooms to make room for students coming in from the closing of Geisler while still accommodating the special ed students. Please make a motion to stop this change now. You have a choice to empower these kids and help them foster a love for education by giving them a safe environment where they can thrive. My child and all the others deserve a right to these disability services. They're not a number. They are minds wanting to learn at their pace. Please make a motion to stop this, and please consider my solution. And thanks to the Banks team for your hard work for special ed, and thanks to all the teachers, and congratulations to all of them. And thank you, board, for listening and taking this into consideration.
Thank you. Gabby Tiaga.
Hello, my name is Gabi Tiaga, and thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I want to start the statement of misogyny leads to mansplaining. Interpret that how you want. I have spoken at almost every meeting since April of last year around the same topic I speak of tonight. I've talked about how Board of Education policies are like snow days. What one district does, the rest will follow. I've spoken about Board of Education meetings in our state and other states in our country, which, by the way, RUSD, Riverside Unified School District's last meeting last week was over 8 hours long. They had so many parents speak. It was amazing. A woman there spoke. Her name was Sonia Shaw. She is the president of the Chino Valley Board of Education, a neighboring district to them. She said something that stuck with me. I quote, "One of us can do so little, but many of us can do so much." You, the Board of Education, are the voice of this community. You have been elected to speak for us. In May of 2024, Nick Russo stated that this district could do nothing about the bathroom policies because there are laws in place. It's insulting to use that as a cop-out. Of course there are things you can do. Set policies, speak out, and stand up against laws that defy common sense. When the statement is made, we cannot do anything, it's lame. Of course you can. It's just easier not to. Easy isn't why you put yourself out there to run for your seat. Your job is to protect our children, so protect our girls and give them the peace of mind in their daily lives on our campuses. Who on this Board of Education will stand up for our girls? Who will speak out and tell them you care about them? Who will be bold and show courage for us and speak up? Who will be the Sonia Shaws, the Stephanie Boones, the Sophia Loris, or even, dare I say, the Gabi Tiagas? Just because it's law doesn't make it right. Our girls continue to be collateral damage in this social experiment, and this community continues to allow it. Thank you.
Thank you. Janet Mayo.
Good evening, board members, school board, educators, parents, and community members. Thank you for allowing me to address this issue, the potential termination of a teacher for introducing a book into their classroom. I'm a licensed mental health professional, a queer individual, and an advocate for the LGBTQIA++ representation. I hold a master's degree in clinical mental health, a master's degree in criminal justice, and a bachelor's degree in sociology with a minor in gender, sexuality, and women's studies. In my work, I've seen how lack of representation and open dialogue harms mental health. Censorship and it contributes to isolation, and we have a responsibility to fight against that. Books and teachers saved me during a childhood marked by abuse. They gave me refuge, inspired hope, and taught me to think critically. Punishing a teacher, offering the same opportunity to our students, is deeply troubling. Public education is not about shielding students from discomfort. It's about preparing them for the complexities of the world. Literature challenges assumptions, promotes empathy, and encourages critical thinking. Silencing ideas that provoke discomfort undermines that mission. Firing this teacher would send a chilling message to all educators that safety and conformity come before courage and growth. Instead, we should use this opportunity to foster dialogue, not division, and to teach students how to engage with diverse perspectives. Representation matters. When students see their experiences reflected in books, it fosters resilience and belonging. Silencing these stories harms their education and well-being. I urge the board to support this teacher. Oh, well, that's odd. And affirm the importance of academic freedom and intellectual growth. Remember, every child, every day, means the queer ones too. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to administrative commentary.